10:25. It is 8:41 a.m. This is the public session of Oregon Veterinary Medical Examining Board. Good morning. I am Dr. Allison Lamb. I'm the chair of the veterinary board. We're going to go around the room and just take a roll call. I will let everyone know we do have some members that are online as well. So just be cognizant of noise and talking over each other. It is hard for people who are, online to understand who people are, or feel free to introduce yourself when you are speaking so people can know who's speaking. So this morning I'd like to ask, do we have Executive Director Burns in the building?
Here, morning.
Morning. Investigator Janine Holland is absent.
She's absent, yes.
Investigator Bertina Gravel.
Here.
Inspector Ingrid Nye. Present. Licensing Administrator Brooke Walker.
Here.
Senior Assistant Attorney General Joanna Tucker Davis.
Here.
Dr. Regan Borzek. Dr. Brett Hamilton.
Here.
Miss Natalie Mayer Williamson.
Here.
Miss Karen Pate.
Here.
Dr. Katie Wallace is joining us online.
Here.
Thank you. Mr. Brian Wadiga.
Here.
Vice Chair Dr. Max Rinaldi.
Here.
Thank you. And we do have some public members in the room. Would you like to go ahead and introduce yourselves?
Yeah, hi, I'm Sarah Harris. I am a CBT locally. I work at Duff Lewis, and I'm the president of Oregon Veterinary Technician Assistant Association.
Thank you for joining
us today.
Thank you for joining us today, Sarah.
Hello, I'm Mal Schwartz. I'm the founder of Shelters United, and I'm looking forward to chatting with you today.
Thank you for introducing yourself now. We have two more public members in the room that I'll address, and then I'll grab the rest of the people that are online.
Tina Keith, the director of the Portland Veterinary Association, and provide support to the Technician Association as well.
Ryan Schultz, I'm the Oregon State Veterinary Department.
Thank you. Do we have any other public members that are joining us online? I believe we have a Julie.
I'm here.
Thank you. Glenn?
Hello, yeah, Glenn Kolb with Oregon Veterinary Medical Association remotely. Thank you.
Thank you. Whitney?
Hi, I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Whitney. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I don't know if you guys remember me from last time, but last time I spoke about Daniel Kohler, and I'm just here as another reminder that he's still a threat to animals and we still need accountability. And if it's possible, I do have a few questions.
Okay, we'll hold your questions for the public comment time.
Thank you.
Introducing yourself today. Julie, I didn't give an opportunity for you to introduce yourself. Would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Julie Villarreal, and I just have a open case on file right now.
Okay, thank you. Other public members? I think we've captured all the public members today. Thank you. So the call to order public session is scheduled to start, and we will return until the end. We will continue until the end of business. Its executive session will follow and is closed to the public. We'll continue to the end of business, and the board expects to come out of executive session and into public session for the purpose of voting on cases discussed during executive session and other applicable business. Sorry, I kind of jumped down to roll call before board business or the call to order. I'd just like to thank everybody for being here today. I know that the in-person meeting is a lot of work on our staff, so I wanted to take a minute to thank you for getting this all rolling and together and climbing on and off tables to get cords where they need to be and making sure that the microphones are all tested so that our online participants could have a good experience today as well. So thank you, and thank you for everybody who made the trek out here. Board members, I know it's not easy sometimes to take time away from your busy schedules to do that. And Joanna, it's always great to see you in person. We missed you, when we don't get to see you as well. So thank you, everybody, for joining us today. So I'd like to take a minute to recognize one of our board members. It's not her last meeting with us, but we know that our public meetings in person are not always scheduled, and sometimes it's hard to know if we're going to have another in-person meeting. So today I'd like to recognize Karen Pate. She will be finishing her term in the fall, and she's been a board member for 8 years. And I just want to recognize that our public members are very vital to the strength of our board. And as a public member, Karen has not only provided a public lens, but she's also brought an editor's lens to our board as well. So we've had to navigate critical language. And whenever we've had that opportunity, Karen has stepped up to the plate, and her ability to share her expertise and provide clear and concise language during her term will be clearly missed. So in fact, she's so good, I almost felt compelled that she should edit this for me. So Karen, we will miss you. I know you're somebody that cares very deeply about your service, the public and the animals we all protect here, and I wish you all the best. We do have a little plaque for you. I know that that is just a small token of thanks for the 8 years that you've contributed to us. So thank you very much. I'm going to give you a hug.
That's all right. That's all right.
Thank you. And that doesn't let you off the hook for the next few meetings.
Thank you. Well, I've enjoyed doing this. I had a friend ask me this week how long I'd been on the board. And I said, oh, I don't know, I think about 6 years. So that just proves that time flies when you're having fun. But I've learned a ton about veterinary medicine and the law, and have been so impressed by the diligence and the thoughtfulness of the board members and the hard work of the staff and the executive directors. So this has been a really good experience for me, and I'll miss seeing you guys every couple months on Zoom.
We'll miss you too, Karen, for sure. And see, wasn't she much more eloquent in her? All right. So we will open it up to public comment. These are for items that are not on our public agenda. They are limited for 3 to 5 minutes. And for planning purpose, we usually recommend that public notify us prior. Do we have people that have notified us prior, Pete? We'll start with them, and then we'll move on to other people that we may not have heard from.
We do. We've heard from Mal Schwartz, who's here virtually representing Shelters United. Mal, do you want to present something to us, the board today?
And the board members, you should have a document to
Every
review as
document.
well that Mal sent prior.
Was that an invitation for me to jump in?
Yes, thank you, Mal.
Okay.
You're more than welcome to speak.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me to address the Oregon Veterinary Medical Examiners Board. I'm the founder and CEO of Shelters United, an organization created in 2020 to share best practices with shelters and rescues around the country, and in particular to help reduce their operating costs through group purchasing. Since 1981, my team and I have concentrated much of our efforts on the rescues and shelters with the fewest resources and greatest needs, which is why I'm speaking with you today. Nationally, over 2,500 animal welfare organizations belong to Shelters United, and in Oregon, 47 nonprofit animal welfare groups are members, with hundreds more in Oregon, these animal welfare organizations that are in need of our support. They face a similar problem as our members throughout the United States, which is lack of access to veterinary care. So these organizations cannot afford a staff veterinarian, so they must rely on developing a symbiotic relationship with a veterinarian in their community. The most difficult challenges our nonprofit members face are twofold. First is establishing that collaborative relationship with a community veterinarian to provide veterinary care to the animals in their custody and to agree to be their veterinarian of record, or VOR. The second is securing medications for these under-resourced shelters and rescues at the discounted rates enjoyed by private practices and larger shelters due to their veterinary resources. Larger shelters have staff veterinarians to utilize as the veterinarian of record and whose license is utilized in the purchase orders, which qualify them for lower prices from veterinary distribution companies for their critical needs. We've worked closely with attorney Mark Cushing of the Animal Policy Group to design a plan for these under-resourced shelters and rescues, and we'd like to discuss with you the possibility of launching a pilot program which we could implement nationally if successful, as we expect it will be. Here's how it could work. Shelters United will facilitate working relationships between a pilot group of veterinarians in Oregon who will be willing to serve as the VOR, the vet of record, providing some level of care to the animals owned by the local rescue or small shelter. In addition, the rescue will provide some compensation to the vet of record, and the pilot test will also design a system that's created to provide referrals to the clinical practice of the VOR from the animal welfare group they are collaborating with. The goal is to reward the vet of record with the potential to serve as the veterinarian for these pets when adopted by pet owners. The pilot will enable the veterinarian to provide his license for purposes of purchasing medications needed by the shelter or rescue. Now this is where my request of the board comes in. The barrier we face is that veterinarians are concerned about the possibility of liability if the medications are misused by staff or other volunteers and potentially cause harm to an animal. We're not proposing to shield the veterinarian from the Practice Act liabilities or responsibilities if her actions directly lead to injury to a pet, but we're addressing the situation where a third person makes a mistake and causes harm. In that situation, we would not want the veterinarian of record, whose license helped the shelter afford these needed medications, to be held liable for uses that he or she had nothing to do with. So our pilot would involve implementing guidance from the OVMEB in some manner or form to be agreed upon that serves the goals of achieving affordable prices for necessary medications, attracting support from a local veterinarian to guide the shelter or rescue in their community, while insulating the veterinarian from liability for actions she did not take or have any involvement with. We will share the legal language that we would propose for this pilot and would love to schedule a follow-up meeting with you to further explore the potential pilot. Finally, to support this pilot test and to address this pressing issue nationwide, Shelters United has created two important tools. One is a vet of record toolkit with extensive resources for both rescues and veterinarians to use in support of a productive and symbiotic relationship. The other is a vet of record training program, a 1-hour, 1 CE race approved course that would train the vet of record or the shelter with and we've launched this to have a productive relationship, launched recently at the WBC conference. So the board packet that Pete Burns, I want to thank you, Pete, for helping facilitate this introduction, has links to the resources that I've referred to today. And I want to finally thank you again for allowing me to present this to the OVMEB, and I hope you will invite me back to discuss the vet of record pilot in Oregon that can have national influence.
Thank you very much, Mr. Schwartz. I'll open it up to the board if you have any clarifying questions for Mr. Schwartz today. Remember, this is not a discussion. However, it is a time where we can ask some clarifying questions about what he's presented. Mr. Schwartz, I did actually have a question. This is Dr. Lamb. And I just wondered if you could share with us a little bit, just take a minute to share. In your toolkit, you recognize that it's a symbiotic relationship with the vet and the rescue, and there's some level of care. Can you explain how the VCPR would work in that, or if there is an exam or an on-premises examination of these animals being done by the vet of record?
Yes, of course. Thank you. There are many different relationships that exist nationwide. Our goal is to try to develop an accepted protocol for a vet of record that would cover the questions that you ask. It's our view that clearly, if the vet of record is visiting a small shelter that has an exam room and is looking at a selection of the animals that need care, the relationship is established and would serve that need to establish the VCPR for that individual pet that's being treated. Where the challenge comes in is when when the veterinarian of record who's not on staff and potentially for a rescue group that doesn't necessarily have an exam room, is how do we guide that vet of record to provide the level of care that is appropriate and maintain their protection from liability that the Practice Act already provides in many ways. Did I answer your question? I'm sorry.
You did. Thank you so much. It sounds like it's a little bit to be determined as necessary.
And that's where we would work with the board, to establish what the board feels is appropriate.
Are there any other questions from any other board members today?
I have a question. This is Dr. Borzik. I was wondering if you have piloted this or are attempting to pilot it with any other states or entities.
Yes, we're working on a number of different things, but this is the only vet med board that we have that we're engaging with. The other pilots are we're working with. We have a Mars Veterinary Health that invested some money in developing the toolkit so that we could provide it for free to all rescues and veterinarians nationwide, and they have an interest in thinking about how they might pilot that in one of their clinic chains or networks. But nothing has been established yet, and no other pilots are currently been approved.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.
Any other board members today? Well, we appreciate you presenting to us today, Mr. Schwartz.
Well, thank you so much to the board. Thank you, Pete, for organizing this, and I hope to see you again soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
I believe we have another public comment. Whitney, would you like to unmute yourself from the virtual room and share with us today? You'll have about 3 to 5 minutes to present your information.
Hi, yeah, I won't be long. I'm sure most of you remember me from last time at the meeting that I spoke. Last time I was speaking, or I'm here as a rep for the Facebook group Companions for Justice. It's a Facebook group dedicated to pet owners who have been affected by Dr. Daniel G. Kohler. In case you don't know who that is, he's a vet, notorious vet, who has been known to hurt or even murder animals, and he's still working currently as a vet in the Gresham area. So I'm just here as a reminder and to reaffirm that Daniel Kohler poses an ongoing risk to the public trust and animal welfare, and it's the responsibility of the board to act decisively. I was hoping that I could just ask one question, if you guys have received any additional complaints or concerns since last time I spoke, and if there's any ongoing sorry, I can't think of the word, but any ongoing, sorry, I have brain fog, but yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say.
That's okay, Whitney. Thank you so much. And I appreciate you coming and presenting today. Unfortunately, I can't discuss complaints received, investigations, or anything about that. So I have to leave it at that. I do appreciate you presenting information today. Board has heard that, and thanks for presenting that.
Yeah, thank you so much for hearing me. I really appreciate the time you've given me to talk to you guys about this.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Whitney. And just for clarification, that was Executive Director Peter Burns that was sharing that information with you, just in case you can't see.
Okay. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Thank you. Julie, do you have a public comment today?
No, I really don't. I just am here to support my fur family member, and I'm in the waiting process of going through an investigation, and I just wanted to take this opportunity to join the board meeting to see what goes on, and just trying to get involved here.
Thank you, Julie. We appreciate you joining us today.
Dr. Lamb, may I say something?
Thank you.
Julie,
Thank you
thanks
so
for
much.
speaking. Thank you for speaking today. Executive Director Burns here. I just want to thank you both again for coming. And public participation is essential to strong and effective board work. So I encourage you to come to board meetings, encourage others to come to board meetings. That's how you see the process. I encourage you to stay for the duration of the public session today and see that we have a diligent board that is extremely well experienced, knowledgeable, takes public safety very seriously. And I encourage anyone to come see our board meetings, the public sessions, and learn more about our process. So thanks for being here today.
Yes, I appreciate that so much. And what time does the board meeting typically end?
It's kind of open until we finish our business. We do have a pretty busy agenda today, so I imagine we'll probably go until at least until noon, I would
Okay.
expect.
Okay, I will be on the call as long as I can possibly stay on, but I do have another call coming in
Certainly.
around 10:30 or 11, but I just appreciate you guys so much taking my complaint. I lost a very important part of my life, and I don't want it to happen to anybody else.
Thank you so much, Julie.
Thank you, Julie, for joining us today, and you can stay on as long as you'd like today, and we respect that you have other commitments as well. Glencoe with OBMA, do you have anything public for this session? I do believe we have you at a line item number 8 for the legislative review.
Yeah, Dr. Lamb, I'll wait for talking about legislation later.
Great, thank you so much. Is there anybody in the room from our public group that would like to make a comment during this session? Okay, I think that concludes item number,
One more item, can you scroll down? There was an item presented, I just want to call the attention to it, from Animal Policy Group. And Maureen was, had requested to be here, but I don't see her in the waiting room and I haven't heard from her. But she did provide some documentation to board review. Want to make sure that you had a chance to look at that. This is related to making licensure easier for veterinarians coming in from other states. That's for us. It's really something I think the board can review and direct staff if they have something they'd like us to do differently. But without Ms. Breen here to present this, I think we'll just probably most appropriate just to let it inform the board. And if the board decides to direct staff, they can do so, or we can follow up the next board meeting.
Executive Burns, is that under discussion and action items or public comment folder for public comment?
Public comment.
It may not have updated in my folder, so I may have to shut down my iPad and bring it back up to pull it up.
It's like, we can get that to board members. At this point, it's just for your review. And if you have some direction, after reviewing it, you could talk to me about it individually. And I'll see if Ms. Breen wants to come and present at the next board meeting.
Yep. That sound good with board members? I'll get it out to everybody so you can read it individually. Got it? Okay. Yeah, I should question on second.
Is it iPad?
Yeah, I got it. I think I need to just shut down and restart. Sometimes it pulls it up afterwards. All right.
If you, Dr. Lamb, Chair Lamb, if you want to review it now, we can.
Sure.
Folks want to take time to read it on the screen?
Back up to the top then.
Yeah. Okay, I don't know if, hopefully everyone's had a chance to look at that, and I exchanged some emails with Ms. Breen and just kind of, informed her of our licensing policies for out-of-state practitioners. Haven't heard back, so if the board feels there's something we want to pursue further on this, just let me know. Otherwise, I'll ask if she wants to present more at our next board meeting.
This is Joanna Tucker Davis. Just so the board knows, just the things that they're bringing up are statutory. They're not something you could change by rule. But it's still open discussion, of course, that's that.
In the fact sheet, she mentioned that. Okay. Okay.
A few more items to come on that to board. Moving down to item number 6, the consent agenda. Today's agenda and the February 13th, 14th public board meeting summary. Do I have any corrections to the meeting notes from the last meeting? I think we had one person that had made a comment about.
I sent one to Pete. I think that maybe has already been put through.
We've not made that change. Are you familiar with that?
Yes, I believe we had one vote that we recorded that didn't capture a recusal. Do we need to revote on that for this meeting, or are we able to correct the recusal, Joanna?
Oh, so the vote at the last meeting just didn't note that someone had recused.
Right.
Yeah, but it didn't, did it show you as voting?
Pardon me?
Did it show you as voting?
Yes.
Oh, we probably should redo it. If it just didn't note the recusal, I think you could note that on the record now, but it sounds like it wrongly showed you voting.
I think it showed that it was,
I think it captured her as a vote
Yeah.
as opposed to a recusal.
It'd be probably the safest thing just to, you're here, let's redo it.
Okay,
Yeah.
do we do that now, or do we do that tomorrow when we're doing all of them?
You could certainly, either way would be fine, but certainly could do it tomorrow, and then you,
So we need to approve
you
this.
need to approve each, yeah. I mean, you could do, is there any reason we couldn't do it right now, and then you
You
could,
can do it now.
yeah.
Are you able to pull it up?
Case number? Down to, motions.
I just didn't know if we need to give the board members a minute to think on what it was that, if they're revoting on something.
So I'm just thinking about this now. So you didn't, in reality, you didn't vote for this. They
No.
just captured it wrongly.
yes,
Do you remember the number?
it was a case that was closed.
2024-0031.
I don't think you have to revote because the issue is the minutes, not your voting. If I'm
Yes,
understanding this.
yes, that the minutes are incorrectly reflecting the vote
Okay,
or
so I think,
lack of vote.
so I don't think you have to revote because you voted. You didn't, I think you just have to amend the minutes to reflect what actually happened at the meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you'll want to vote on the amended minutes. Yeah. Yeah,
So
This is it.
yeah.
So this would just say, we would just amend to say,
It's Rinaldi and Pate abstained.
okay.
Um,
yes, so gave us quorum on that day.
oh, that's a good.
Can you go back up to see
Yeah,
the
who's
roll
present?
call?
Okay.
Yeah.
You're right, that's a different issue. One, two. That's one. I'm just double checking the statute, but I think 5 is what you need to take action. Yeah, Dr. Lim, you voted on it.
I voted on it.
Okay. Yeah, so we have 5, that's,
One absent and two abstains.
but 5 affirmative votes.
And there was 5 of her.
Yeah, so all you need to do is amend the minutes.
Okay, so do I have a motion to amend the minutes for 2024-0031 to reflect that both Pate and Rinaldi abstained and the remaining 5 members, excluding Dr. Hamilton, because he was absent during that meeting, would have a quorum for that to be a closed case? Do I have a second?
I'll move. Oh, second.
Karen seconds. All those in favor, Dr. Borzak? Dr. Hamilton?
Aye.
Do I not have to go around the room? I'm so sorry. Can I just say all those in favor? So, I'm sorry.
No, the Oregon Government Ethics Commission
She, everything.
recently issued an advice to boards about, the basic idea is that you have to make sure you're recording every individual vote.
Okay, so we'll just go around.
But
It's
be the
it's
safest
I got excited there
Yeah.
for a second. Gavel and the fact that we were not promoted.
It's not the safest way to go.
So all those in favor of the motion and the second, Dr. Borzak? Dr. Hamilton?
Aye.
Ms. Mayor Williamson? Aye. Ms. Pate?
Aye.
Dr. Wallace?
Aye.
Mr. Brian Wadika?
Aye.
Dr. Rinaldi?
Aye.
Dr. Lamb, aye. Motion passes to approve the minutes with that correction. And then our minutes today, do we need to vote on those? Or the agenda today, we don't have to vote on those, right? Or do we? I can never remember.
I think the board votes on the agenda.
Okay, and do I have or I'll move to approve the agenda for today. Do I have a second? Ms. Mayor Williamson seconds. All those in favor, Dr. Borzak? Aye. Dr. Hamilton?
Aye.
Ms. Mayor Williamson?
Aye.
Pate?
Aye.
Dr. Wallace?
Aye.
Mr. Brian Wadika?
Aye.
Dr. Max Rinaldi?
Aye.
Dr. Lamb, aye. Motion passes to approve the agenda for today. All right. We're moving down to item number 7, and that is our update from the state veterinarian, Dr. Ryan Schultz. If you'd like to take the floor.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you for having me. Ryan Schultz, the state veterinarian with the department. So I have a couple updates, as seems like has become tradition. I'll start off with updates on avian influenza because that was asked yesterday how things are going, and it seems like that's the only thing that we do these days. We have continued to see cases. Our last case was in the very beginning of March, up here in, actually our first case we've had in Multnomah County in the poultry. Typically, we see cases wane during the winter, early spring, so we don't really anticipate any new cases there. Our dairy sampling, we still have not had a case detected in dairy cattle in Oregon. We are just shy of 1,500 surveillance samples now in dairy cattle in this year. We have been testing, we get about 85% of the dairies on any given week, testing bulk tank samples from, the goal is every dairy in the state every week. So like I said, we're just shy of 1,500 samples with no positives at this point in time. So we're pretty happy with the outcome on that and the work that our dairy industry has put in to increase the biosecurity of that disease out of their dairies. We have had some outbreaks or clusters of cases related to cats in Oregon. In most of those cases have been associated with raw pet food, the feeding of raw pet food. Unfortunately, the strain that we've seen this year that associated with dairy cattle, the B313 strain of the H5N1 virus, causes slower mortality rates. Still is 100% mortality rate, but it causes the incubation period is a bit longer in poultry. So when we see spillovers from that, it takes longer to detect it. And unfortunately, we've had some cases across the country where commercial poultry flocks have made it to processing before that virus was diagnosed, and then that meat is being incorporated into food products. On the human side, there's no risk from that because we cook our poultry meats. When that gets included though into a raw pet food, even though it is human grade product, that virus is passed through, and cats are extremely sensitive to the virus, and that has led to a number of cases that we've detected. The most recent outbreak affected. There was 10 cats that we were able to confirm virus in. Both of our raw food outbreaks, we've had a number of cats that were kind of reported after the fact that there was no longer the ability to test them. So we believe they were likely much larger. Both of those did result in voluntary. Well, one resulted in a voluntary recall of the product by the manufacturer. The other resulted in a mandated recall by FDA because the manufacturer declined to do a full recall. Associated with that, we've had a significant uptick in suspected cases being reported by veterinarians. So since the beginning of December, when we had our first case associated with raw pet food, about 160 cases that we've tested from reported by veterinarians. So that's prior to that, we were averaging 1 to 2 a month. And so that's been it's been great to be able to offer that. It's been a huge strain on our resources to be able to work all those cases. Typically, when we receive these calls, they're coming from poultry owners to us. And so we have a great process worked out. Typically, the cat cases are coming from a veterinarian. And so we prioritize being able to make sure that that veterinarian is able to speak with one of our veterinarian team. And so it's resulted in we've had weeks where we're taking multiple calls a day. And so it's resulted in kind of some shifting of prioritization within our vet team to make sure we have someone available every day to take those calls. And oftentimes 2 or 3 vets are taking calls simultaneously because of the complexity of those cases. So with that, we've been offering free testing kits to vets to have on hand because we recognize that the media that's required for that testing is not something that is common in vet clinics. Viral testing is not something that's done a lot in the media, specifically because even influenza is still a foreign animal disease. It has to be tested according to certain processes. And so having that media on hand is often difficult. So we've been providing those along with PPE to be able to protect the veterinarian and technician in performing the exam and sampling those cases. So we've distributed about 250 of those kits so far. We also updated our disease reporting rules this last winter. I think I talked about that at the last meeting, but that has been fully implemented now. For the most part, there wasn't a lot of changes to immediately reportable diseases outside of horses. So there was a couple of equine diseases, mainly influenza and strangles, that were moved to immediately reportable from just monitored at the request of the really a lot of veterinarians and horse owners in wanting to know about those and wanting them to be managed. So that there's been a few incidences in recent years where horses were either knowingly sold at sales or knowingly taken to a show while clinically testing positive for strangles or having clinical signs of strangles or influenza. So we've had a few cases of those. We're still kind of working through the regulatory response because there's not great resources from other states. There's not very many states where those are actually a managed disease. But and then on the monitored diseases, we did expand that list to include a few more of the important endemic diseases, and with the intent of getting those reports from labs. And we are starting to get the lab reports coming in. The first lab, we're hoping to send an update out this week, but we just received our first automated reporting from a lab this week. And so we're working on that. The goal was that those are laboratory diagnoses reported by the labs. We just don't have the authority to require it from the lab. We can only require reporting from veterinarians. So that's how the rule reads. But the idea is to exempt that reporting from the vet as long as they're using a lab that's automatic. So Hopefully that does not represent an increased burden on the vets. We've got about 2 months worth of case reports now. We're hoping to get past the 3-month mark, and then we will be developing a dashboard to provide public access to those reports at a county level, so that hopefully that can be useful information within practices to be able to show that, yes, we do need to be vaccinated for parvo because we had 38 cases last month in our county, or we're seeing new cases of distemper, what's going on, those kinds of things, to really hopefully increase the knowledge base of what's going on around you in your practice area, as well as to help us monitor for shifts in those disease trends. So the goal is kind of by the 6-month mark to have that fully operational. Outside of diseases, we are anticipating enacting similar temporary rules this summer for exhibitions to address mitigate the potential risk of influenza. So that'll be requiring a veterinarian of record for exhibitions, and then some increased record keeping requirements, some physical spacing between different species that are susceptible to influenza, and then testing prior to coming to fair for waterfowl and dairy cattle. The big change this year is going to be that because we have surveillance programs in place for the majority of our dairy herds, and many of our poultry flocks already participate in influenza surveillance, animals coming from herds or flocks that are participating in those will be exempt from having to do the pre-fair testing to reduce that burden. We are also working a lot on developing our disaster resources. That's one of the other areas that our program has some responsibility. They've kind of fallen into disrepair over the years. So we are updating those to have those. Hopefully, the goal is to have those all deployable ready this summer. We are also, it looks like, going to be receiving about $200,000 this spring to develop some stockpile supplies for disaster response. So what that'll look like is shelter kits, so pallet-based shelter kits that can be provided to counties, basically staged in counties. Our goal is by the end of the summer to have a kit available, whether the county decides to take it or not, for every county in the state that doesn't have a trailer. So we've got the 4 trailers right now, but then we have 2 of those kits built. We're working on building 30 additional kits this summer with that funding, as well as a couple of additional trailers for larger kennels that can be easily deployed to counties for sheltering for disaster response. And so the goal is to have those resources spread throughout the state and easily deployable without having to go through us. So that every county has a kit. Every neighbor of every county has a kit they can send out. That's kind of the goal, is to distribute those resources. We're also working on developing some communications tools, working on updating our website to include more resources for owners and for veterinarians on kind of the planning and what to do. Then also developing, hopefully this summer, a toolkit of communications resources that can be supplied to counties as well as to veterinarians, to different groups, where we can have kind of the small snippets of animal-specific information that can be included in general communications from a county, emergency communications from a county, to ensure that animals are being incorporated, but then also back those up with larger communications pieces that can be utilized by the county. Kind of have that holistic messaging piece pre-developed that you can just kind of change a few of the details and not have to worry about developing full communication plans on the fly while you're also trying to figure out how to shelter all these animals and how to get these animals evacuated and how to deal with all of those other things. So those are all kind of on the list for this summer. I think the last update I have, I'm going to let Glenn do most. Glenn will probably talk about most of the legislative things that are impacting us. There is one bill that is actually coming from the department that impacts our program. I apologize, I don't remember the bill number off the top of my head, but essentially converting our current, so most of our regulations currently have criminal penalties associated. We don't have civil penalties. So if we catch someone who brings in animals without a health certificate, the only recourse we have is criminal penalties, referring that to a county DA and prosecuting them in court, which does not, in 1955, that probably made sense when that rule was last updated. It doesn't make sense today. It doesn't match the current way we do things. And so we are requesting to add civil penalties. That criminal penalty will still stay on the books for the worst of the worst cases, right? Where you have someone that intentionally brings animals in that are known to be carrying a foreign animal, right? Those really bad things, or when it ratchets up enough. But the goal is to have low-level civil authorities that we can enforce as an agency after the outreach and the warnings haven't worked, to be able to take those actions ourselves rather than having to make someone a criminal because they forgot to, put something on someone's criminal record because they forgot to get a health certificate. So that's the one bill that we have that was brought by the agency. The rest of them, there's a few that I think impact the board as well, but that will probably be discussed. So that's the end of my update.
Any board members have any questions for Dr. Schultz today?
So this time of year with all the horses coming back from Arizona and everybody's branding, this is a good time for strangles. So so you report a case. So what happens then to that horse owner?
Yeah, so it depends a little bit on the situation. We're taking it very case by case right now in terms of how far it goes. Our default response is a 28-day hold on that horse to prevent them from going to a show, from going to a sale. If we have a case where it is a boarding facility that they're saying, yes, for you guys, that horse can stay home. We're taking the other 30 horses to the show this weekend. Like, we have the authority to do premises-wide quarantines, to do those kind of things when it's needed. But we're trying to be really measured in that response right now and just look at that one horse. We also recognize strangles is a really difficult disease. And so we are, at this point, we are doing just strictly a time-based quarantine because we know that some of those animals are going to be chronically infected. We know that it's a very difficult and expensive one to do ongoing testing, so we're not requiring negative tests. We're just trying to hit pause for long enough to keep that horse in one place, to kind of evaluate it, figure out what the patients are, which is all you as the attending veterinarian. We're not getting involved in that piece. We're just hitting pause on going to shows, going to sales, those kinds of things.
We have a question from Dr. Wallace as well. Dr. Wallace?
Hi, I was just wondering if the list of labs that report to the ODA is a publicized list?
It will be. So
Okay.
Officially, we don't have any yet. We have one report from one lab that was their test to make sure that they had our email address correct. As soon as and that came in yesterday. So the plan is for each new lab that begins that, we will send out a notice, but that list will also be on that same page where the list of diseases is.
Okay. And then how do we account for reporting? You mentioned parvo, all the in-house parvo testing that's done.
Yeah, so the in-house diagnostics is the one thing that's left, the one piece that's left in the veterinarian's hands. If you diagnose it based on a laboratory test that you perform in-house, I mean, there's a lot of clinics, especially equine clinics, that are even doing, in-house PCR testing for a lot of the respiratory diseases now. Any of those in-house tests that you do would still be your responsibility. It's an aggregate report within 15 days. So the idea is, keep the list next to your, wherever your in-house lab stuff is being done, and jot down the case information. We are not collecting any owner information on those monitored cases. Those monitored cases is strictly the clinic it came from, but then it's species, sex, age, disease, county of residence is the furthest we're getting, because we have some issues with protecting that information. So we're just not going to collect it. If there's a case where we need, we see a cluster of cases, that's why we're collecting your information. We'll reach back out to you if we need to look into it more, because we're seeing something, it's part of a cluster that we need to look into more. But that's really the extent of it.
Thank you.
Question that you just brought up, the aggregate list. Do you have forms that allow the vets to just list, if they're in a shelter or they're in a, doing herd health monitoring, where they have multiple animals on one sheet, or is an individual sheet having to be submitted for each?
So right now, we only have that individual sheet. I will say that there's nothing magic about that sheet. We have a number of shelters particularly that have just, they've created their own spreadsheet. We've got several clinics that their practice management software allows reporting, and they're doing it that way. That's in the works. Along with, as you can hear, a lot of other, way more things than I have than my ADHD brain can actually keep track of. So yes, and thank you for the reminder that is almost done and just not on our website yet. So yes, that is planned to have a list that can do that.
Thank you. And just a follow-up question to that, because you are a team of how many?
We're growing. So there are 5 veterinarians now on staff with the parks. We've got 3 field vets and 1 program vet that works on a lot of the disease reporting stuff. And then 2 program coordinators and 2 office staff.
Thank you for all you all do for the animals of Oregon and keeping the public protected as well. So any other questions from board members today? All right, well, thank you very much for coming. Move on to item number 8. This is legislative and regulatory review with Glenn Pope, OBMEB or OBMA's executive director. I always want to mess that up for you.
Well, Dr. Lamb, yeah, thank you. And thanks for the elevation and status too. I appreciate it. But
I try to do that on regular basis.
On a serious note, thank you to the board members for your service. We really do appreciate it. I wish more veterinarians, licensees would get a better understanding of your roles and responsibilities and the work and diligence you do. So again, I want to thank you. When I met with you last time, ran over a number of bills, and I'm going to cover some of the same bills, but with an update, kind of the status where we are. So I'm going to work with House bills first and then go into Senate bills. So House Bill 2103 would direct the Board of Pharmacy to schedule xylazine as a Schedule IV controlled drug. The bill was not scheduled for a hearing, a bit to our disappointment. We were hoping it would be, because we had worked with a sponsor to have an amendment that would have exempted veterinarians from that aspect of it, because veterinarians need the ability to use xylazine, to administer it when there is that need. But the bill didn't move forward. We'll kind of keep an eye on that for future legislation. House Bill 2167. It appropriates funds from the general fund, $10 million to the Carlson College of Veterinary Medicine and $3.5 million to the Oregon Veterinary Diagnostic Lab. There's some good news and bad news. The good news is the committee moved the bill out of committee with a due pass recommendation and a subsequent referral to Ways and Means because there's a fiscal attached to it. Now, the bad news is that the committee, by amendment, an adopted amendment, removed the $10 million from the bill for the Carlson College of Veterinary Medicine. The concern, so the committee supports the veterinary program, but the concern was that this is a package of 10 millions for the CCVM and $3.5 million for OVDL. And the committee was concerned that at Ways and Means, they would look at it as a package and maybe reject the entire amount. Now, $13.5 million doesn't seem like a lot of money with the state's multi-billion-dollar budget. But when it comes to everybody else is also asking for funds, they have to make some really tough decisions on Ways and Means. Their feeling was that the OVDL had more pressing needs, especially with their ongoing work with the Department of Agriculture on testing APIA, and also working to build up to address chronic wasting disease if it comes into our state. So again, the bill was referred to Ways and Means, and that's where it stands. House Bill 2744 prohibits a pet insurance policy from excluding, limiting, or reducing the coverage of benefits because of a pre-existing condition. On surface, it might sound good. We had concerns that we shared with the sponsor of the bill that the numbers just did not work out. If you excluded pre-existing condition limitations, pet insurance coverage would have to include many, many more healthy pets to help cover the cost that insurers would cover. So we met with the sponsor of the bill, discussed it, shared our concerns. He agreed in principle with our concerns. He's not going to move the bill forward, but at the same time, we're going to have ongoing discussions during the legislative interim with him. Now, House Bill 3604 establishes a legal framework that sets a hold period for stray cats, sets standards for agencies who assist stray cats, that'd be your humane shelters mostly, and provides a means for the agency to become the owner of a stray cat if that animal is unclaimed. The bill also protects the agencies from liability if they adhere to the standards. So many organizations, and I think Dr. Lamb, you probably can speak more eloquently to the concerns you might have had with the challenges of getting this bill to where it is, but many organizations led by the Oregon Humane Society worked on the bill and the -1 amendments. The bill moved out of the Judiciary Committee with a due pass recommendation, and it will be scheduled for a vote on the House floor, and that happened yesterday. House Bill 3871 establishes the Animal Welfare Trust to provide grants to entities that provide veterinary support services related to animals in low-income households across Oregon and in our underserved communities. So as we know, many Oregon pets would not receive veterinary care if not for local nonprofit organizations providing assistance where they can, and certainly veterinary practices where they can also work with their clients and patients to do the same. It's challenging to keep up with the growing demand for subsidized services. And so the intent behind the trust is to get a collection of money. These would be donations. They would go out. There's no state funds as part of this. But it would be an additional program to help provide for the necessary care of animals across Oregon, again, especially with low income and challenged households. The bill was moved out of committee with a due pass recommendation and is subsequently referred to Ways and Means Committee. So Senate Bill 327, the intent is to prohibit a veterinarian from requiring an owner of an animal treated by the veterinarian to surrender that animal to the veterinarian for non-payment of services. We met and followed up with staff of the sponsor and reiterated our concerns that veterinarians have to have that discretion to have those hard conversations with clients. Sometimes that means spectrum of care, access to care. On occasion, it could mean euthanasia, but at times it also could be placing that animal in a different home where that animal might be able to get the necessary care it needs. The bill was not scheduled for a hearing. However, the OVMA will meet with the sponsor of the bill and the staff to have ongoing discussions about this issue. Senate Bill 328, that prohibits animal shelters from euthanizing a dog or cat because of a lack of shelter space. They had some other stipulations relative to shelters. We were one of many who had concerns about this and participated in a good discussion with the sponsor of the bill. We shared our mutual concerns that shelters really need the discretion to be able to decide when an animal in their care is euthanized. It led to some good discussions. The bill has been pledged not to move forward. In fact, it can't move forward now because work sessions have already completed this week. But in the meantime, during the legislative interim, we'll have ongoing discussions with the sponsor about their concerns.
Hi, we can't hear you. Glenn, can you pause for a second and just go back maybe 30 seconds? We had a glitch in the technical.
Sure.
We heard you start talking about 328 and then it kind of cut out. So if you could just start again.
Yeah, thanks for letting me know too. So yes, Senate Bill 328 prohibits shelters from euthanizing a dog or cat because of a lack of shelter space. We had in OVMA met with a sponsor of the bill. Many other organizations also were in the Zoom call and really conveyed that shelters have to have the discretion to make those hard decisions when a pet, a cat or dogs, is going to be euthanized in the shelter. There are many, many factors as to why that might occur, might be necessary for that occur. The sponsor got a better understanding and appreciation of the issue when we've had that discussion. He's pledged not to move forward with a bill. And in the meantime, I think during the legislative interim, we'll have ongoing discussions to address any concerns they might have. Senate Bill 976 is one we probably spent the most time on this session. It allows non-veterinarians to practice equine dentistry and to perform pregnancy verification services on cattle. It also stipulates that an individual must hold a degree or certification in equine dentistry, and that an individual must also receive training to preg check cattle. The bill also notes that the Oregon Department of Agriculture may adopt rules, but isn't required to adopt rules to kind of specify under what conditions unlicensed individuals may perform equine dental procedures and pregnancy check assessment in cattle. So what's the status? So the OVMA led a grassroots network to oppose the bill, citing instances from veterinarians where non-veterinarians providing equine dental care have been administering, in many cases, sedation to horses, and in some instances, extracting teeth, all without any oversight and what we believe is illegal. We also shared concerns about qualifications and training for lay individuals providing equine dental care and lay individuals performing fertility assessment evaluations on bovines. So the bill was amended twice. An allowance for non-veterinarians to provide equine care has been removed from the bill, while allowance for lay individuals to preg check cattle, that still is continued. So the -3 amendments call for ODA Animal Health to inform lay preg checkers of the requirement to report livestock diseases and establish a task force on equine dentistry to identify ways to provide greater access to equine dentistry in the state of Oregon. The bill did move out of committee as amended, again, not respective to equine dental care, but also did move out with a do pass recommendation and is subsequently referred to Ways and Means because there's a fiscal cost to Department of Agriculture of, I believe, about $250,000. And then the final one I'm going to comment would be Senate Bill 1076. It directs the Department of Agriculture to impose fees for licensees and license renewals for animal rescue entities, that'd be shelters and other rescue groups, but also would add breeders of animals, including birds, cats, dogs, and other small mammals. So animal rescue entities have been licensed and inspected by ODA for about the last 4 years, although the program really was funded only for the first biennium. So where are they going to get the money to continue for their inspections? The bill adds Oregon breeders of these animals really to be accountable for licensure and standards of care like the AAREs already are. And the bill was amended and moved out of committee with a do pass recommendation. Because of the fiscal cost to ODA, the bill also was referred to Ways and Means. Now, with regard to Ways and Means, they probably have the most daunting task of any committee at the legislature because they're cobbling together the state's budget. And they have to take into consideration all the requests for funding, and they have to make hard calls. What's going to get funded, what's going to be included, what's not going to be included. I mentioned earlier that sometimes the amounts that we're seeing for these bills may not seem like a lot, but when you're adding up the cost for all the other responsibilities that the state has, it becomes really, really challenging for Ways and Means to make those hard decisions. They probably have been having some discussions now, but they really, now that the bills have worked through the legislative process and worked through work sessions, Ways and Means is getting a better idea of what they're going to be looking at. So we're looking probably at the end of April, first part of May, before they really put the pedal to the metal to really start cobbling a budget together. And if you're looking at the 1st of May, they've got about 30 days to get it done because the legislative session is supposed to end by the end of May. So anyway, if somebody has questions on any of these bills, and Pete, I think what I'll do is I'll summarize this and send you a copy so you can include it maybe for the board report. I didn't do it this time, so I apologize for that.
Thank you so much, Glenn, for that robust update on all the bills. There's a lot this year.
There's quite a few. There's a lot I didn't cover too. So I tried to hit on some of the key ones I thought were relative to veterinary practice, but also maybe your oversight as the veterinary board too.
We appreciate Yami's hard work on all of that, as well as your own hard work on that. Are there any board members with questions for Glenn before clarification? Looks like you're off the hook, Glenn, with any questions today. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
We'll move on to Executive Director Report, item number 9 with Director Burns.
Thank you, Dr. Lamb. You all received my executive director's report. I'll go through a few highlights here for you. Take any questions. We're wrapping up our fiscal year, and we had a little bit of a startle from Shared Financial Services in terms of if you look down at the second paragraph of my report here under budget, talks about our presentation to legislation for our budget request, and the increase in DOJ costs impacted us due to a number of hearings, the increase in DOJ fees. So we had to go to the budget, we had to go to legislation in February and ask for a reallotment, an increase in allotment for those DOJ fees. We have the money, we just needed to increase our allotment for DOJ expenses. That went through. It was understood that was needed. We then need to ask for just a little bit more to get through the fiscal year. At one point, we were talking about maybe really tightening our belts as we approach the end of the fiscal year, maybe having to cancel our in-person board meeting, but we found a legislative fix to get us through the fiscal year without having to make any of those cuts. So we're in good standing. We're projected to go through the fiscal year just fine. Further down, it talks about the reminder that need to increase fees. That's going through in July, and that will keep us on solid footing through 2029 as projected. So the budget's strong. We had to make a few adjustments to our allotments, but we're in a good position going into the next fiscal year. Any questions on budget? Now you all have in your iPads, you have specific budgetary documents that talk about our expenditures and revenues specifically. So you can always look at those. Those are public documents. They end up on our website. So if you have any questions specifically, please look through those, reach out to me directly. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Any other budget questions? All right. Moving on to agency administration, one item I'd like to discuss that's not on here, but in late March, Dr. Katie Wallace and I went to Kansas City for the AAVSB, for 2 AAVSB events. There was a 2-day executive directors summit that I attended, and then a 2-day board training that Dr. Wallace and I attended. And I just want to say it's a really good partnership we have with the association, and they cover the costs of those trainings. I especially like the Executive Directors Summit. I get together with colleagues from around the state, from other states in Canada, and we compare challenges in their districts, in our jurisdictions. And we come up with a lot of creative solutions as well. The agenda was picked right from our agenda. They were talking about VCPR, they're talking about shortages and access to care. We established a regional group with Washington, primarily with Washington, California, Alaska, and Oregon. But that's growing, and it's really nice to have that kind of regional group to focus on what's more germane to our specific area and our particular challenges. So I really appreciate the partnership, learned a lot, came back with a long list of things to follow up on, some new contacts from around the country. So it's a really good opportunity to see what we're doing right, see what we can do better. So we'll keep participating in those. And then
Can I also thank both of you and Dr. Wallace for attending that? I know it's not easy to take time out of your busy schedule to go out of state to attend something. So thank you, Dr. Wallace, for doing that. I know several of our board members have had the opportunity to go to AABSD trainings, and they are so vital to learning what we're all faced with on our board. So anytime a board member has an opportunity to take advantage of that, it's great. And staff, because it's so helpful to know we're not in this alone too.
thank you for that, Dr. Ladd.
Sorry to steal your thunder.
No, you amplified our thunder. No, but I did want to say there are other opportunities coming. We have the conference in September. I'll be reaching out to board members that may want to participate in that. So I know it's Dr. Lamb said it's tough. We're all busy, but this isn't a frivolous waste of time. They really get some good work. I also wanted to ask Dr. Wallace if you wanted to say anything about your board training that you attended there.
Yeah, sure. It was a whirlwind trip for me. I was literally in Kansas for 48 hours, but got to sit in on the meeting for 2 days, and I was impressed by the breadth of people who were there, and just the trainings really focused on the importance of our boards and the things that we do. And I have to say one of the biggest takeaways I had is what a great job Pete's doing in Oregon, and how he runs our board meetings and keeps the Joanna involved in our decisions and keeping us on track. And I just have to give big kudos to Pete. So anyhow, thanks for letting me go, and I would encourage others to go.
Dr. Wallace, thank you so much. That's very humbling. I really appreciate that. Gosh, thank you. I'm glad you didn't even talk about the food that we ate. We had so much good Kansas City food.
Yeah, we did have food.
Some interesting food, I should say. Some interesting
Yes,
food, right?
I've lived in Burns a long time now, and I felt my eyes opened to many things.
Yeah, I won't share too many stories, but we did have some interesting food experiences there one night in particular. Thank you so much, Dr. Wallace. Appreciate it. Any questions on that topic? Next on my report, I do have our little blurb here that we have about board member recruitment. As we recognized earlier, Karen's going to be leaving us, and very difficult shoes to fill. Dr. Lamb spoke to the special skills that she brings to this, but public members in general are difficult shoes to fill, and they're vital to our success as a board. This is the write-up that we have on our website. I'm promoting this. I'm sending it to anyone far and wide, through the governor's office, through DAS, through other agencies. Oftentimes, board members, public board members will jump from one board to another and serve here and maybe go serve another board. So I'm talking about their agencies. If they have someone that might be turning out that might be interested in joining us. But I want to put it out here, and I want to share it with our public participants today too. If you know anyone that's interested in getting more involved, the directions are right here. It's on our website. starts by reaching out to me, and I will talk you through the application process. It is an application that you submit. It's reviewed by me in the governor's office, and it's not difficult, but board work is very important, especially that public member role. So if you're interested in getting more involved, please reach out to me.
Send the board members an email that summarizes that we just easily forward to contacts we have that might know people that are interested.
Glad to, absolutely. Thanks for that suggestion. Anything else on that topic? Okay, next I talked about the fee increase. This should come as no surprise. This is moving through later. I think in discussions and action items under rules, we're going to be looking at the fee increase rule changes and look at those numbers specifically. So I won't get into that too much more right now. Office lease review. This item has been on here for a long time. It's just something that's going on. Our office lease is changing. Our office footprint is changing. This will not impact our operations in any way. We'll still have a public-facing office. We'll still have office hours to meet people if necessary. We rarely meet people in person, but we're always available if necessary. We're pretty much completely online, but we do have an office space. Our footprint is going to shrink, but we will maintain that because that is important. We have people drop off application materials. We have people drop off information that's follow up on investigations. So sometimes people want that office space. We'll maintain that, but it will be less than what we have now. It will be in this building. We'll still have access to these conference rooms, but nothing will change operation. And that's still going to be within the next 2 years before there's any real significant change. Any questions on that? Okay. Moving on, I just added this little snapshot here of our area of our agency program areas just to keep everybody focused. We really have 3 different divisions: licensing, compliance, and inspections. And it goes into licensing numbers, which you guys have. I think, yeah, Dr. Lamb pointed out in some areas in here, I sometimes talk about 702 facilities, sometimes 703. I think we're actually like 708 facilities currently.
Somewhere like every area.
It's bottom line is it fluctuates. So I do need to go through my documents to make sure we're uniform, but around 780 current facilities. The other licensing update I want to point out is we just got new renewals. Brooke ushered us through that. Brooke, do you have anything to share about that?
Thoroughly, my second year going through renewals, also there. Yeah, happy to wrap it up.
Usually at the end of March, Brooke was dragging half a dozen or more people across the finish line last year.
Facilities especially. But
Facilities, individuals getting them across the finish line this year, just a handful, and some last minute reminders got everybody across. I think there are 3 outstanding facilities that we believe are actually closed, and we're just verifying that, making sure. Any questions on licensing?
I actually did have a quick question
Sure.
about, it's not really a question, but I was curious because I saw that we maintained our line that says new licenses and lapsed licenses. I wasn't sure if maybe we could break that down to see DVM or, veterinarian versus CVT, like how many are lapsing as we're looking at whether or not licensing is going up. Veterinarians are going up for CVTs, or if we're losing more veterinarians and CVTs that are coming into the profession. I didn't know if that was an easy thing to break out for future reference, since there seems to be a lot of talk about that right now, and that's absolutely something awesome. Thank you. That would be great.
Thanks for that. It's a great suggestion. And all this data, all these data points, if you see something that you'd like to hear regularly updated, please let me know. Investigations. Here we are. We've done into presenting our March numbers. We have a large number of cases. We have our second investigator currently on family leave, and she'll be returning actually next week. But we did have a little bit of backlog with trying to cover for that situation. But Bertina's done a great job of just kind of maintaining our consistency in response to complainants, our response to respondents, getting those letters out, and then pushing the investigations through to you all, where you guys take action or not, and then we follow up with whatever's necessary after that. But it's an incredible feat to get these numbers through. One thing that we've done the last couple of years is clear that large backlog of older cases. Everything we're dealing with is still relatively pretty new, I think within with an acceptable timeline. Bertina, do you have anything else to share on investigations?
And we're getting through it.
And they're coming in fast, aren't they?
They're coming in very fast.
She sent me a text the other day. It says something's in the water. Something's happened in the last, 2 weeks? A lot of cases. Stand by.
Spring happened in the last few weeks.
Yeah, it's time for that. And it all flows uphill to y'all too. So you'll see it down the road. Thank you, Bertina. Inspections are off and running. We've had a lot of, what do you call that?
Pharmacy self-inspection.
Pharmacy self-inspections have been coming in, and that's taken a lot of Ingrid's time and attention. And those are, can you provide a little update on that?
Sure, absolutely. So we do, this is my second year, just like Brooke, doing these pharmacy self-inspections. It went much more smoothly this year than last year. I kind of had some improvements that I introduced just to make my life a little bit easier. Just in terms of like reminder emails to people, keeping track of, who was finished completely, whereas we, always there's follow-up. Sometimes people send me back a blank form, sometimes people send me back. So I'll continue to kind of refine that. And then we kind of haven't really come up with a plan for this yet, but Brooke and I have discussed, because there is a lot of confusion, it seems like to me, when facilities are renewing at the end of a calendar year. And then at the beginning of the very next calendar year, they're being contacted saying you have to turn in your facility self-inspection form. A lot of people are communicating to me, we already did that. And it's like, no, that was your renewal. This is a separate thing. So something that we may bring to the board at a later date, possibly this year, is a plan for combining those two things so that a facility could submit their self-inspection at the same time that they renew. We just think that might be, first of all, it would let Brooke and I collaborate on this very kind of labor-intensive task every year. And then also it would decrease confusion about what exactly is this process. And certainly as I've been doing inspections, I've become more aware of exactly all the responsibilities just administratively for a managing veterinarian. And, they have to deal not only with us, but with, often with the radiation board. And so there's often a lot of confusion about, okay, which agency are you and what do you need from me? And so I think that it would be kind of, obviously it's usually I can sort it out with people really quickly. And it's like, oh no, that's different. And people are usually like, oh, okay, I understand now. But I think that, going forward, you might look at, rather than having to have two different points of contact, just getting it down to one. So, and I welcome any feedback or suggestions anyone has on that. And then I expect that this is going to be a very busy inspection year for me. In 2023, which I started in October of 2023, Brenda had retired in June of that year. So we had kind of like about 6 months where there were no inspections conducted. Then last year, as was my first full year doing it, I did a lot. Not as many as Brenda could have done. So this will be a year we're kind of playing catch up and grabbing all those. Happily, we do have in our rules that full inspections are required every 3 years, and our practice has been to do every 2 years. So we do have that kind of wiggle room built in there, which is why you see on the numbers, they look low for the last 2 years, and then they're going to be a little bit higher this year as we kind of push that. So I expect to be traveling a lot. I'm really excited about it, especially kind of getting out to more kind of far-flung regions, and because it's really terrific. Everybody's always really kind and welcoming. I've yet to have a really negative experience, so I hope I didn't just jinx it, but yeah. Any questions or anything on that?
Any board members with questions for Ingrid? Thank you, Ingrid, and thank you, staff, for considering licensee efficiency of time, because I know a lot of our licensees are very stretched with their time commitment. So it sounds like you're looking at those plans to help licensees be more efficient and interrupt their day less so that they can help the public more with the animals. So I appreciate that.
Thank you very much for that. And I also want to thank staff, just, as we have, as you said, a lot of us are into our like second year, and we're starting to get more efficient, we're starting to become more gelled as a team. There's been a lot of crossover. We're able to cover for each other, to know each other's roles as well as our own. So it's really been a good year of growth and increased efficiency. So I'm really grateful for this team, grateful for this board. And with that, I wrap up my report to you all. Unless you have any other questions.
Any other questions? If not, this seems like a natural break in the agenda, but I don't want to miss anybody if they had any questions for staff today. All right, it's 10:06 on April 10th, 2025, and we'll take we go until, I don't know, 10:20. That sound good? A quick break. We'll reconvene.
Lots of refreshments here. Help yourselves.